I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Happy Monday. It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Hopefully your Monday is not too Monday-esque, and it has been a good one. We appreciate you joining us and making us a part of your Monday. We are live from the First United Bank studio. You can call us on the Visual Edge IT hotline. That number is 806-771-0973, or you can hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Thoughts, comments. If you want to go ahead and tell us what the end of your bracket looks like, feel free to do that on the Yates Flooring Center chat line, or how many brackets you have. Take us anywhere with the mobile apps, brought to you by Happy State Bank. We're also streaming live on Fox 34 News now. And on YouTube, Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Ben Porman behind the glass. Gus, how's it going?
Oh, it's all right.
Did you
dragging my butt around today?
Let's say you didn't really get to tear it up on St. Patrick's Day.
No.
You probably didn't even wear any green. I would hope
did.
not.
I wore green skivvies.
Oh, you did.
Mm-hmm.
Just so Jamie wouldn't pinch you in the booth.
Yes.
And as we established on Friday, if there was a booth whiz situation, which you could have ran into, you got the old weather delay, which was the basis of that conversation. Jamie would have known what your skivvies were.
There was a turlet right there next to the booth. Right there next to the old visitor's booth. A considerably less walk than what we have here, in fact, for what that's worth.
You had a very wet weekend.
Uh-huh.
Not exactly fun to deal with. Miserable.
Yep.
With the weather, and I would say miserable with the results as well.
Yep, pretty close. Yep.
Yeah. Other side of that, Red Raider basketball. I think maybe you could look on the non-silver lining side, the glass half empty, and I thought you were going to be a 5 seed. You end up being a 6 seed. But again, I'm trying to – the last month, every time we've talked about Texas Tech basketball, I've tried to put it in the perspective of what did I think was going to happen at the very start of the season. And if you had said 6 seed, locked into the tournament, no doubt sort of team into the tournament, I would have said that is a dream. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Sign me up. You get the North Carolina State Wolfpack as an opponent. What was do you have any highlights of your weekend?
No. There was nothing crazy. Unless if you're asking me a question about off the field stuff.
Yeah.
No, not really.
You reel in Jamie at all?
Nope. No. No, there was just it was gray down there from the minute we got there, which doesn't affect, really anything, but just the rhythm of like a Saturday 2:00 game, and then hey, we can go get some dinner or go to beat Dubs or some and watch a game or something, but
Sure.
That thing was thrown off with the 4-hour delay and all that mess, and so just everything about it was just kind of jicky.
At what point
once
on
you got
Saturday
past Friday,
did you go stir crazy?
Oh man, just sit in the booth and try to be busy. Try to find something to do because there's no answer there.
All right, we're going to play a bird counting game.
I took exactly. We did see some geese fly over yesterday, like 5 geese, just random geese when it started raining. Because the river's just right out there.
Mm-hmm.
The
sounded like you were up 5-0 on Jamie in bird counting game.
Yeah, I took 5. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I took 4 boxes There were small boxes. It would have been one just nice sized box, but of media guides and game programs to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. The curator there sent him a bunch of pictures and said, "Do you want these 1970s and 80s game programs from the Rangers?" There was a little bit of Dallas Stars. There were some Houston Astros, early 1970s. I knew that there was enough history in this stuff that it wasn't just last year's media guide. Want this?
Yeah.
It was,
you want a 2021's media guide.
Right. Yeah. And then a decent stack of Cotton Bowl stuff, mostly from the early Big 12, late 90s, early aughts, with the commemorative coins that they pass out, but it's also the one they flip, And anyway, I had a bunch of that stuff, and I had texted him. And he's an acquaintance or curator, and so I had sent him pictures of this stuff to say, "Hey, do you want this?" And he said yes, and so that was a highlight, getting to go by there and see him and. Curator, we stood there and talked for about 20 minutes. He walked me over there and showed they've got a little Texas Rangers display right now from the World Series. It had this was one of the bases, it was cool to see a base up close, because that looks like a pizza box. The bigger bases. Mm-hmm. We've all seen them on TV and from a distance, but seeing that thing sitting there, it was like, man, that thing truly is oversized, almost cartoonishly big, but. Anyway, there's this and the
flat, right? Still,
yeah, the jersey,
not flat, still risen.
Right, the jerseys from a couple guys, this and that, and there was a champagne bottle from the celebration.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, they only had about 1,000, from the locker room.
Exactly. They probably grabbed 4 or 5 of them just to create a little provenance from the event, kind of make it really unique. But yeah, that was cool. I mean, that was a good part of the deal to get to swing by there and do that.
The locker room celebration, and obviously the Rangers are the one that we've covered the most with the area, and then just what it meant to the fan base and everything, and having listeners that are a bunch of Rangers fans, of course, and playing the Rangers on the station. My question with them, and this is not a negative side, it's just like my genuine interest in this. Of all of the bottles that were drained in the locker room celebration, how much of it was actually ingested?
Oh, yeah.
Percentage-wise.
I bet it's a low number.
It can't be high.
A low number.
It cannot be that high. We're going to do that after the show today for no reason.
Okay.
I'll have Ben wheel in the champagne cart momentarily.
Perfect.
It's in the hall. It's Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Headlines. When we come back, it is The Juice.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
It is The Juice here on Tech Talk. You've got us on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Thanks for joining us and making us a part of your Monday afternoon. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Ben Poorman behind the glass. Red Raider baseball, disappointing outcome for sure this weekend in Waco. You win on Friday night 2-0, but then losses, ultimately both ending up on Sunday after a rain delay. You lose game 1 of what turns into a doubleheader 5-1, although the score, doesn't shift on the next day. But 7-2 loss at the end of it all, and you drop 2 of 3, losing the series. You're now 2-4 in Big 12 play. The Red Raiders turn their attention to Abilene Christian. They'll play tomorrow at Dan Law. 6:30 first pitch, 6 o'clock coverage time on Double T 97.3. If you want to hear a recap of the weekend and a look ahead to ACU and probably BYU after that, tune into Red Raider Baseball tonight with Tim Tadlock, 6 o'clock here on Double T 97.3 after we're done. Or go to Rudy's and go get yourself some barbecue and hand in some questions. On 100.7, The Score at 6 o'clock tonight, it is the High School Fan Zone with Garrett Luft here in the first United Bank studio. Coaches from Coronado, Estacado, Lubbock High, and Monterey will join him. Who knows what he has on deck? Still, all sorts of sports still rolling on. I would venture to guess you're getting more baseball and softball at this point. I'm not sure who all has been on and who hasn't coach-wise in those two sports. But if I had to take a guess without knowing, I would probably throw a dart at those sports tonight. Red Raider basketball found their destination in the NCAA tournament round 1. They'll be going to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They are the 6th seed in the South region. They will take on the North Carolina State Wolfpack. They won 5 games and 5 nights in the ACC tournament, beating the likes of Duke and North Carolina in the championship game. Along the way to do it, on the other side, you have the 3 seed Kentucky taking on Oakland. And it's the winner of you and North Carolina State will take the winner of them. We'll dive plenty into the bracket today. The Big 12 question would be, how many would they get in this year? Statistically and net and all of that, best conference in America ends up with a tie for the most in the tournament with 8. SEC also had 8 teams in the field. The closest one that missed ended up being those Oklahoma Sooners, who did no favors, bowing out in their first game in the Big 12 tournament to TCU. So the 8-10 in Big 12 play Oklahoma Sooners are the last one that missed. Obviously, Kansas State misses 2, and only say that because they were also working their way into the discussion. They had a win in the Big 12 tournament against Texas as they were trying to make up ground, but then they ran into the Cyclones.
Yeah, and they had a little more of a hill to climb, too.
Sure.
When they got there, they probably needed way more than just one. They needed an upset or 2 to juice them along. Lady Raider basketball officially has the season in the books after they did not receive an invitation to the Big Dance or the Women's Basketball Invitational Tournament. Head coach Krista Gerlich had this to say in a statement yesterday on behalf of our entire program. We're obviously disappointed to not be selected for either the NCAA tournament or the new Women's Basketball Invitation Tournament. The goal for Lady Raider basketball will always be to hear our names called for the NCAA tournament on Selection Sunday. That was our goal entering the season and will remain the same as we unfortunately enter the offseason. I firmly believe this program continues to make progress towards being a fixture in March. I'm proud of this, how this team stuck together and battled together through adversity all season, especially late in the year when injuries plagued our roster. Because of this, and in the best interest of our team, we will not accept an invitation to any of the other postseason tournaments this season. 17-16 was the final record, 5-13 in Big 12 play. And last but not least, Texas Tech softball ran into the Oklahoma Sooners at home. Still a lot of really good softball to be played in front of them, but they get swept by a team that's going to sweep a lot of people this year. 14-0 was the first final, 15-2. That was played in 5 innings, and then yesterday 11-1 was the final game. Now they will take on the Cyclones at Ames. No midweek game. They'll take on the Cyclones Friday night, Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock first pitch in Ames. You can hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Thoughts, comments, questions. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Wolfpack is wore down and out. They will bow out against Tech. I like the sound of that. I hope you're right.
I do think it's interesting because I feel like no one on the scale of things when you're heading into the Big 12 tournament, no one's really putting them in the middle of the scale. It's either, hey, they are emotionally drained, they are physically drained, they gave everything in the tournament, to get a spot, because even if you lose that ACC championship game, North Carolina State's probably out. In fact, I should probably word it to pretty safely out of the tournament. So there's that side, like, hey, did everything? How much do they have left? Is there any gas in the car for the Wolfpack? Or the other side is what's like, man, that's the team of destiny rolling into the NCAA tournament, and that's not an 11 seed I want to see. You are already a 5.5 point favorite. If that means anything to you.
Yeah, and
biggest margin of the 6 seeds.
And that coming from nowhere narrative is a whole lot more interesting. Just in terms of if you're just embracing just these snapshot views of these 32 games, or actually plus whatever the first 4 thing is, whatever. You glance at games and you're looking for storyline and all that, and the storyline for them being the first team, other than, or I guess the only team since the history of ever to win 5 tournament games in a row on consecutive days. The other one was like 2011 UConn, and so there's the narrative. Just dig a little deeper, and we'll probably get this on like game broadcast when they're digging a little deeper on both of these teams, and the Grant McCaslin first year turnaround, injuries, all the things that they've had to overcome will probably be something that gets revealed during the broadcast. But right now, when everyone's just doing snapshots, it has to be the NC State thing. On an all-time heater, running through Duke, through North Carolina, all that they've had to do over the last week. That is the story. And you know what? It may not be the worst thing. We all want the attention, but the most important thing that can happen there is winning that game. So getting a bunch of pre-hype and then getting beat, I'd rather flip that around. You guys stay quiet about us. Play up NC State so that y'all can all be disappointed when we beat that ass.
That is interesting. So between, and maybe someone correct me, between the ESPN and the CBS bracket, and look, I mean, there's 68 teams to go over, so you're not going to do a deep dive on every single one when you're doing the initial bracket reveal. Both ones, that I saw did about the same thing. Like, so Grant McCaslin making it in his first year at Texas Tech, and now let's talk about North Carolina
5
State.
in a row, and it's a big story.
And I get, oh
my gosh,
if this was against any other team. Also, and I'll talk about this on the other side. I'll tell you what, we'll save it. We'll continue the tournament talk on the other side. Let us know your thoughts on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Back with more next.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
It is Tech Talk on Double T 97.3, Double T 97.3.com. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Ben Corman behind the glass taking care of us. We will have Red Raider Baseball with Tim Tadlock after we are done, 2.5 hours from now, 6 o'clock, live from Rudy's. Hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Thoughts, comments, questions, all that welcome there. So, just gut feeling when you first saw the matchup for Red Raider basketball against North Carolina State. How'd you feel about the draw? And I don't know if we ever got your seed prediction of what they were like or anything like that.
I didn't really give one. 6 seemed to be in the middle of everyone's expectations, though. Yeah. You kept hearing 5 through 8. Thought, all right, 6, fine. I was good with that. When NC State popped up on the screen, my immediate thought is, ooh, they're immediately, and maybe of course, I know our story, but you immediately go, oh, they're the ones that just had the run. They're not there without that.
Yeah.
The true conference tournament deal, where you go heat up and win that thing. I mean, it's what every team that's not that doesn't have something locked up is hoping for. They did it, and they did it in the most difficult of circumstances, and they ran it right through 2 blue bloods
and rival blue bloods on top.
Yes,
of that.
absolutely,
in-state blue bloods,
big time. And so I immediately got that. Immediately whoa, NC State. Sort of all of that flashed through. Maybe my instinct, and we'll see. My instinct is that they're, that they've been through an emotional ringer to get here, and all of the things that went their way for 5 days in a row, and the magic of that moment hopefully
this magic
hopefully it's not there.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not there, and that at some point it just goes our way rather than them staying on that heater. But who knows? I mean, that's the narrative I'm looking for. And then the very next thing I did was look down and like, okay, who's the 3? And the 3 is Kentucky.
Yeah, I think you have you got a lot of just in your 4 right there outside of Oakland, and who knows, maybe Oakland if you're a fan of this university, which is in Detroit, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you are listening from Detroit on the mobile app, we appreciate you listening, and you're a huge fan of Oakland.
Texas.
Outside of them,
Texas, if you're listening in Detroit, Texas, if you're one of our millions of women listeners who happens to be in Detroit.
You call for the ladies like once every month.
I know. Because we're up to like 8, I think 7 or 8. I mean, there's almost as many
so funny
states that end in the letter A as there are women listeners of the
How about
Tech
that
Talk
first
here.
stat? How often do you use that for your number reference?
Just saying.
That's well done.
Because the answer to the first question is clearly 2.
I would have had to think about it, and I would have.
That's
what I'm terrible at?
That's one way to get a lot of text to the show is boldly proclaim that there's 2 states that end in A. And you get like 4,000 texts with the entire list.
The chat line is really good at a lot of things.
Frothing.
Letting us know when we are firmly wrong on something.
Frothing
as
at
we
the
should
mouth.
be. As
Yes.
we should be.
Love it.
If we go hard and fast on a stance and it is way off, we deserve to be called out. But that is there's no doubt that happens. Where's I going with that? Oh yeah, you made me follow the shiny toys. I just looked over there. Keys started jingling. 3 out of the 4 outside of Oakland, I think you have absolute wild cards for the tournament. And you can say this throughout it. That's what makes March Madness great, right? But Kentucky at times look nowhere near a 3 seed. I don't have any issue with them being a 3 seed. I know that there has been some anger towards some of the seeding in the tournament, and this happens every single year. There's always an Oklahoma and a St. John's that gets left out. There's always a Michigan State or a Virginia that you're going, how are you guys in the tournament? But it just boils down to, regardless of the year, if it's going to be leaned more on the net, if it's leaned on the full body of work, if there is some logo talk involved, what do we know? You have to take care of business so you're not on the bubble, and you can't, be that a part of that group of 5 to 10 teams that you really do not know what your fate will be if you'll be in or out. And then, misseeding other teams is a completely different conversation. But the wild card aspect of it, like Kentucky had no issue with them being a 3 seed. They run like 10 players deep. I feel like they had a player that wasn't available to them that came there like halfway through the season, maybe towards the start of SEC play, and they got healthy and they looked really, really good. And then you have North Carolina State, who we just mentioned and have talked about. Like, outside of you beating BYU in the Big 12 tournament, the most fun I had in conference tournament play was watching North Carolina State, because it was a fun story. And I was looking forward to being like, I wonder where they're going to go in the tournament. And then you get them as a draw, and it's like, It's less of like nerves or anything like that. It was like, I wanted to root for them. Like, that was a team I have no ill will towards, have never hated for any reason. And I hope you get taken out first day of the tournament. And then you're a wild card in your own right, because you have certainly health issues. We all remember what the month of February looked like, which wasn't good. We all remember the month after that and what you've played in March, and it's looked really, really good. So you're certainly in that mix. But I think 3 out of the little 4 in your area of the bracket to start out in the opening round and the round of 32. Who knows what any of those teams can do in the tournament. I'm hoping you're the one that breaks through and makes a lot of noise. You certainly have a chance to.
Absolutely. The Kentucky situation's interesting because that's more of a, they've always been sort of defense first. Of course, been very talented over the years, but they have been, like they've been a little more offensive. You see their scores. Felt like their scores were.
Oh man, what broke 100 twice in SEC play.
They just kind of, and so I don't know if he's ingeniously coaching to his talent or if he's changing who he is. We'll see, but it's interesting situation. Worry about them on Saturday, hopefully.
Yeah. You're certainly not looking past the Wolfpack.
No, heck no.
It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3, Double T 97.3.com. Appreciate you joining us. Keep hitting us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line, or you can call us on the Visual Edge IT hotline, 806-771-0973. When we come back, Gus is going to take us back in time. Keep it right here on Double T 97.3.
Podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3, Double T 97.3.com. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Ben Foreman behind the glass. Keep hitting us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. We got this for the Red Raider North Carolina State impending matchup on Thursday night. You can hear it on Double T 97.3. Wolfpack still has life. It won't be a gimme. And then here you go, Gus. P.S. Go Wolfpack.
Wow.
Oh. A North Carolina State listener.
I wouldn't.
It's good to have you, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't think it's gimme. I don't.
No,
you're not gonna hear that coming out of my mouth, man. It's NCAA tournament time.
Like
gimmies.
I'm confident in your chances against North Carolina State, but that doesn't mean that I think you can just roll up into the gym and beat them. It's more of we saw what they were a month ago before the tournament, right? And it was not the same team that just ran through there, and they've certainly had their issues. That's why that if they don't win the tournament, they wouldn't be in it at all. If they didn't win their conference tournament, they wouldn't be in. But at the same time, it is knowing that they have the capability of being the team that beat Duke, beat North Carolina. And it seemed like beat interested versions of them. And by that, I mean you never know who's actually going to be invested in their conference tournament, because it can be like a Kansas situation where it felt like they completely just rose the white flag. It's like it didn't even feel like we're going to try. We're going to sit people just to make sure that they're healthy, sort of thing.
Right.
Or it can be like Iowa State, who was incredibly interested and wanted to win it to see if they could get to a 1 seed. And boy, they looked very impressive. They don't get the 1 seed, but there's different situations like that. And it felt like North Carolina State ran through some very talented and interested teams.
And interested, yeah, that's a big deal.
It's like the bowl game talk.
Sure.
At that point.
Absolutely.
This on the chat line, if Chance, D5, and Warren are in, we have a chance. If not, it'll be tough to watch. And that's, to me, that's the first question, which I think is probably in the forefront of most Red Raider fans' minds, is first with Darian Williams, because he's been the one who has been playing. How healthy
playing
is
well.
he? And playing well.
Maybe the most valuable of the players.
Oh yeah, like I think he has turned into, and it's not just recently. He's been this way throughout conference play, but he is one of your vital pieces on this team to have success. And then after that, the only reason I put him in front of Warren Washington is because Washington hasn't been there,
right?
In quite a few games. And I would love to see him back in the lineup. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, I would too. But you've sort of adjusted to life without him in a way and had some success in life without him. And would love to have him back. But I would assume if he came back, it would be as sort of a rotation piece and not hauling around a 30-minute load of expectation and stuff. Because I would assume, because I would think if you're talking about a foot or an ankle injury, he's able to stand around and shoot set shots and do some things, but he's not able to run the floor and really play, the sort of practice preparation that you need to play to be sharp, and so.
And is he going to have the range
Sure.
of what makes him a dangerous piece? Because he helps open up the offense because he is so mobile. So if it's something like that where he can go but it's hindered, what does that look like? And again, I feel like I've seen some conversation like, we don't want to throw off the chemistry of what we're doing.
No.
If he can come back, I would love Warren Washington to come back.
Oh, my gosh, yes, absolutely.
But again, that's up in the air. But I think between the two, I'm more concerned about Darian Williams because I just if he is out and let's say Pop doesn't have the best game, or this happens against hopefully in the next round after that, and it's the same thing, and maybe it gets to Kentucky. Either one, that is going to be such a difficult game to win without having anything from Williams if he's out, and then having like a February Pop Isaacs, which by the way I'm not expecting from Pop Isaacs. I'm just saying those two those are your motors.
Right. Yeah. It's a good way to say it. That's a good way to say it. Motors is right. Just where the juice comes from, where the excitement comes from. I'm fascinated by this. I hope. Hope there's enough that we can get cranked up and going and heating up, and this team get flowing and having fun and doing all that kind of stuff. And I guess that sort of starts with them having a decent shooting night.
Yeah. Washed Up Guy said North Carolina State is hot, hot, hot.
Yes, they are.
Feeling hot, hot, hot. Tech is limping into the dance. I'm not saying Tech has no chance, but it is a scary matchup. This from Bobby Hot Dogs. Gus, between games yesterday, I watched a little bit of America's team versus your birds on bats. I had completely erased Luke and Baker from my mind until he raged one over the fence. Salt in the wound.
Yeah, he's he was in the big leagues with them last year for a minute, and kind of September call up. And his problem is he's playing behind Goldschmidt, and Goldschmidt's a bona fide big leaguer, and but Baker's had, I think a 30 home run year in AAA, and done the hit a ton in AA and all. And so he's an older player for his, where he is and trying to break through. And I assume right now he's on the 40 man, and he's in a bit of a tough spot just because he's playing one spot on the field. He's DHing or he's playing first base. Mm-hmm. Can't run around the outfield or whatever, and so it's all about him hitting. And we'll see. But yeah, what I'll always remember, and I know that our texter is 100% right about the walk-off home run in Omaha to beat us. But there was the next year in 2017, John McMillan faced Lucan here, and I think it was in the doubleheader because it's kind of a similar deal to this past weekend where we had a game suspended and played a game and a half, and we came back and won the first game and then blew them out the second and ended up winning the series because Lodolo had beat us on Friday night. And it was John Mack throwing heaters by Lucan. Lucan's a proven collegiate slugger, and John Mack at that point I think was a freshman, but it was octane. It was gas on monster power, and it was like Monty Casey type deal where it was 3 swings and a miss, if I remember correctly. Just it was just one of those things that just took the air out of the park with excitement. So cool.
I hope. Would you say that gas on monster?
It was just gas on power. It was just John Mack throwing 97 and Lucan up there swinging for the engineering building. Beautiful.
I hope my spelling is gas on power here in about 5 minutes. It is Tech Talk on Double T 97.3.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Happy Monday. It's Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3, DoubleT97.3.com. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Ben Porman behind the glass. We got this on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. My wife just filled out her bracket based on logos and picked Tennessee, Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Alabama. That's not a bad Final Four.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
What's your confidence in Iowa State right now? Because they are.
I know.
Speaking of red hot teams and also just teams that were talented all year.
I kind of wanted to think that was Baylor about 2 weeks ago, and then they've sort of limped around over the last couple of weeks, and so but yeah, man, Iowa State, what a good story. Because they were down not long ago. I'm here for it.
Yeah, if you
those dudes just work in
like
Houston, man.
I hate playing against Iowa State. And it's back to now with Otzelberger instead of Hoiberg. It's back to I hate playing Iowa State for different reasons. It's just
and we say that out of complete respect.
Yes.
Like, dang it, you guys. You know what? Hopefully they're saying that about us. Like, man, we thought you guys were down and out for a year, and we were for a year, and now
as long as McCaslin stays away from the medium shirt, can we take this success and get a proper shirt size? This on the chat line. Well, have you done a bracket yet? Filled one out? Are you a bracket guy?
Nah, not really.
You got like 70?
I mean, I have before, but no, I don't know if I'll get to one this week.
I'm about to roll through some tonight. I only have one so far, and it is. I like Choice's wording on this. He calls it the bracket of integrity, because if you listen to Choice over on 100.7 The Score when he's over here, you know that he leads the way with just an insane amount of brackets. But he has, I call it the one true bracket. He calls it the bracket of integrity.
Sure.
I've already filled out my bracket of integrity, but I also like the fun ones, and so I'm going to roll through some tonight. So I'm going to spend part of my Monday night.
The one where you draft all the teams with cute boys on them?
Yep. No, not that way.
Oh.
What was going to say? A big, beautiful man.
Big, majestic, beautiful
men. No, I like the mascot one, which would win in a real life mascot fight. That's a fun one. Choice did what one did he say today? Proximity to the house, which would be obviously Texas Tech winning because they're just down the way. That was a fun one. I'll do one. I did one last year where which my bracket was all sort of screwed up last year. I let my animals pick one, our pets, and that was the best bracket that I had, was the most success. So I might trust them again on one tonight. We'll see.
I like it.
You got to spend a Monday somehow, right? Why would you do things like read or educate yourself
when you
could when you could have your animals pick a bracket for you?
Especially, you're like, man, I got to get my boat fixed. I'm going to go home tonight and let my dog pick a bracket. Go Catamounts.
Yeah. This on the chat line. How are we feeling about the basketball team and their first round chances? And how are we feeling about this baseball team? Losing a series versus Baylor has left a horrible taste in my mouth and has me getting close to hitting the panic button.
Panic.
Is that an overreaction?
I hope so. We're about to find out.
I mean, if you lose the series at home to Baylor, you can...
At home to Baylor?
Excuse me, BYU.
Yeah.
If you lose the series at home to BYU, I mean,
Yes, sir.
I'll be over there.
Yep, I agree.
I hope that this was just one, you faced a Texas team that's talented, and it didn't go your way, and then you just had some. I mean, it's not all bad luck because you have to give credit to Baylor, but you just had a bad series, albeit against a bad team in the Big 12. And I guess on the other side, you're hoping Baylor just goes on a tear and looks a lot better and does that to a few other teams, although I don't expect that to happen. But if it happens 3 times in a row to start the season, then I think you've got serious issues. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They'll have to find a way to play better. I mean, it's concerning. And now, this isn't the first good team in our history to not be great on the road at this point.
You can go back to some of the. That's what was so remarkable. Jamie and I were talking about it in 2014. That team that ends up like, okay, going to Coral Gables, and just played great baseball for a weekend and win a regional. But yeah, that it's not an ideal way to live, and to think you're to do that, and to be expending a series loss at home, and a bad weekend on the road, and like to use those up in your first 2 weeks. Like, man, they're you don't want to put yourself in a spot where you have to win 22 of your last 24 or some deal to get in. I don't think they're at that point, but they need to do some winning. They need to do some winning over the next 3 weeks, and that's just me saying that. I mean, it's way too early to know who's what, but OU going into TCU and sweeping them in Fort Worth, like OU's sent the first shot across the bow.
Are they the early surprise of the Big 12
absolutely
season?
They were 6-6 when conference play started. Bonkers, man.
This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Oh, and by the way, to answer the first question with how are we feeling about the basketball team and the first round chances, I feel good about it. I think you've got an opponent that could be spent, or on the other side, an opponent that is red hot and is that classic story of the tournament. I think there's a lot of people that are not rooting against Texas Tech, but people that aren't a part of Texas Tech and national media that love and salivate over stories like that. Would love for that to be the case. But from just the view of what North Carolina State has been as a whole this year and what you've been as a whole, I mean, even though you've got some health things going into it, I mean, you're a favorite in this for a reason, and that's a team that I think you should take care of business against. But you got to shoot it well, for one. You can't be bullied by Burns, their left tackle, playing center. And I think you have to play the same way you did at the end of the regular season. You have to play physically, and you have to keep them off the boards.
Right.
It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3.
This has been the Tech Talk Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.